The New York Jets have made their selection in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. What does that mean for the future of the franchise? What does that mean for day two? We're going to get to all of that here. One Jets Drive on Football with Faria.
It's time for Football with Faria.
You got to get the offense right, and you got to be able to be aggressive. They put up 14 against the secondary. That is driving me up a freaking wall right now.
Now here's your host, Nick Faria.
All right, everybody, welcome back inside Football with Faria. I'm here, One Jets Drive. A lot to talk about today, a lot to break down. Day one of the NFL Draft, crazy as we have ever seen. A lot of ebbs and flows, not a lot of trades as many people expected, including myself, but certainly some surprises that had ramifications, not just for the current NFL Draft, but for the future of the league in general. We'll get to all of that in a little bit. First off, for all of you guys jumping on, I see we got a few viewers jumping on already. Thank you guys so much. For the new viewers, welcome. The old viewers, welcome back. Like, share, and subscribe to the video. Any appreciation, any help is obviously appreciated. So thank you guys so much for continuing to follow, and hopefully we continue to grow this thing out. But today, really the first time we have a Friday show, and it's mostly because of the news that has been going on around the Jets now for the last 24, 48 hours. We have to talk about their first-round selection. New York, originally, there was speculation that they were trying to trade up. They were looking to try to move up for a wide receiver, and ultimately it did not happen. So ultimately what the Jets decided to do is they let the draft board come to them, and they ended up moving back in the draft, swapping picks with the Minnesota Vikings with the 11th overall pick and taking Penn State offensive tackle Olu Fashanu. We're going to get to the main takeaways of what Fashanu had said today because we heard him speak earlier, but there's a lot to unpack over this first day. And I think ultimately, when we talk about the Olu Fashanu pick, we really have to start with what happened before the Jets were on the clock. And essentially, there were 3 wide receivers taken in the first 9 overall selections. A lot of people thought that was going to be the case, but a lot of people didn't know the order. Malik Neighbors goes to the Giants at 6. Marvin Harrison goes to the Arizona Cardinals at 4. But Romeo Odunze, where he was going to end up was very interesting. A lot of people didn't really know. And my understanding, what we essentially learned, was the Atlanta Falcons at 8. Everyone was surprised. Everyone was surprised that the Atlanta Falcons took Michael Penix, and because of the value of the pick and because they could have absolutely taken him if they moved in a trade with the Jets. But the Falcons said no. And the Jets end up taking Olu Fashanu with the 11th overall pick, adding a couple selections as well. I got to be honest. There are people that are going to be disagreeing with the ramifications of this pick. There's going to be people that say they wanted a receiver, a pass catcher. But ultimately, and I'm going to ask your guys' opinion here in the chat. If you guys want to call in, definitely call in. We'll try to make sure that we get to everybody today and try to answer all of your questions ahead of day 2 of the 2024 NFL Draft. But ultimately, the grade of this pick, it has to be an A. It has to, because if you're looking at where the Jets were going into the offseason, one of the major problems that they had was depth along the offensive line. Yes, we knew they needed starters at tackle. We knew they needed starters at guard. All those things needed to be addressed, and the Jets rightfully addressed them in free agency. But the difficult thing that they had to deal with was figure out the depth. Now, they could sign David Bakhtiari for $5, $6, $7 million this year and him count against the cap. But let's also remember, when you draft a guy like Olu Fashanu, you're paying him a rookie deal. So you're not overpaying for a starting caliber player, even though he's not going to be seeing the field right away. So ultimately, there's very few points here where I look at and I will accept saying this was a reach by the Jets or this was a mistake by the Jets. Listen, New York did what they were supposed to do. They felt that they wanted to get a receiver early in this draft. They did the best that they could to try to trade up. But if there is no available trade, if no team wants to trade with you because if you don't have the assets, you can't force other people to do it. You can't put people at gunpoint and say, you need to make this trade. It's not how this works. Ultimately, the Jets made the smart move. They couldn't get the receiver they wanted, so they went with the best available player. Joe Douglas yesterday, when we were sitting down and speaking with him, he talked about having 6 non-quarterbacks that the team was all in on. And I think we can figure out who those 6 were, right? We talk about Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, Alt, Latham, and then the last one was Fashanu. So Fashanu is sitting there at 10. The Jets understand that they could easily get him. But then Douglas makes an interesting move, and I do want to talk about this. I want to get you guys' opinion. But him swapping picks with the Minnesota Vikings, picking up a 4th and a 5th round pick, now having 3 4th-round picks at their disposal, it's going to be very interesting to see what the Jets do with that. I have a couple of different things that I'm hearing as well about what New York is trying to do. But ultimately, to pick up some extra draft picks and still get the player you want, that's a win. And it's an A because Fashanu is a great player. I have him as the second best tackle in this draft class, in one of the deepest draft classes I have ever seen for tackles. So this is a clear win for the Jets. It's a clear win for Olu Fashanu because he gets to sit behind one of the best left tackles in the modern game. You can't go against the pick. Now, I am going to bring on calls throughout because I feel like it's a perfect way to segue into some of these points because I do want to talk about the bigger winners and losers of the draft. I want to talk about the stuff that we're hearing for day 2. So let's go to our first caller today. And Johnny, how's everything going, man?
Hey, Nick, what's going on, dude? How you holding up, man?
Tired, man. Tired.
I could only imagine, man. I appreciate you up in the trenches right now.
Of course.
So, first and foremost, bro, your Eagles, Quinyon Mitchell, bro.
I was gonna wait to bring him up.
Like you, wow. So that's huge, man. I mean, I was looking at something the other day that a lot of these small college schools and whatnot has produced a lot of really good corners.
Yeah,
and we've not talked about it. Ward, Sneed, just
Sauce Gardner.
Sauce. It's amazing, man. So, but dude, the Olu pick, first and foremost, man, you're in the media world, right? So you see what goes on, and you're a Philly fan too. So that fan base is really, really tough as well. So is New York. I think this is the perfect spot for Olu to be in because he's
100%.
having to be the man from the very beginning of it, and you can learn from someone that he's looked up to since he's been a kid. So it's an exciting time, man. I know a lot of Jet fans are like, it's not the sexy pick, it's not, but dude, they literally put us. JD is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers, and it's amazing, man. And did you see were you there to see Olu? Or
Yes, I've been here all weekend.
How was that? How did he seem and all that?
I was gonna get to it in a little bit. So I will humor you, Johnny. But the one thing that I see right away, and he kind of mentioned this yesterday when we spoke to him, he's a high character guy, well spoken, very professional, talking about where he can improve, talking about what he can learn from some of these other guys. You look at some players coming out, they come with an edge. I think Fashanu comes with a playing edge, but he doesn't come with that ego edge, if that makes a little sense. The Jets, most teams want high character guys. They look for high character guys because they feel that you can grow a nucleus of a roster with. When Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses and Rodgers all leave, who's going to be the leaders of this team? It's got to be Sauce Gardner. It's got to be Garrett Wilson. It's got to be Breece Hall. But you got to have someone on the offensive line to do it. You've got Tippmann, and now you've got your tackle. The comparison that I have, it's so much like Philadelphia because I see him as Lane Johnson, well-spoken, charismatic, good locker room presence. And then you have Jason Kelce, who's just an enigma. And I would throw Joe Tippmann in there right away.
And question, right? So with this pick, right, it's very eerie to the Nick Mangold. Because remember, when we got Nick Mangold, he was supposed to be the guy from the very beginning. And then injuries occurred. and we were safe. And look how long of a career that has happened. So it's for all the Jet fans that are out there, man. Like, this was a smart, safe, but it was a really, really good pick, man. And I'm glad that we did. I mean, again, anything that JD I trust. And my last thing, dude, I pray and hope that we go ahead with this additional ammo that we got. We jump back into the second, and Lad McConkey is there for the picking, man. You know, I've been so big on that guy.
It may not be Lad McConkey.
Oh, dude, you can't say that and not like tell me.
I'm gonna get to it. We're
10
minutes into the show. We're 10 minutes into the show. It may be, it may not be. I just know they're working the phones.
Dude, this is amazing, man. I appreciate you, Nick. Keep doing your thing, dude. You know we're here to support you, man. And
of course.
Oh, hey, dude, you guys did good too, though, man. You guys got 2 picks in the second round, I believe. Right?
Yeah, well, I listen. I'll get my excitement out of here, Johnny. Thanks so much for calling in, man. I'll get my excitement out of here, and I'll talk about the winners and losers of draft night, because to me there were very clear winners and there were very clear losers. And the biggest loser, in my opinion, of this entire draft so far were the Dallas Cowboys. They had Graham Barton fall into their lap with the 24th overall pick, and they traded back. And we're able to take Tyler Guyton, who's a project. He can grow into a great player, but we have no idea his overall development, what that's going to look like. The fact that Philadelphia, with the 22nd overall pick, with 2 picks in the second round, 3 total in the top 64, and they didn't have to trade a single one of them to make the pick for Quinyon Mitchell. That's as good as it gets, man. I said it on the Play Like a Jet podcast. I said, Howie Roseman, he's got a bad back. He bows too much. He's bowing too much with this offseason. He has been absolutely on a tear. It's been a terrific start to the draft. Philadelphia needed a corner. They are a clear winner in this draft. I think the Jets, I wouldn't put them as a stable winner yet. They need another receiver before I call them a winner. But I will certainly say that they had a strong night. They added picks, and they were able to get the top offensive tackle, pass blocking perspective-wise, on the board. It was absolutely incredible. They did a good job. They did their job. They did a good job. It's not a clear winner yet, but they're right on that path. If they were able to add to a receiver, whether it be a veteran, a rookie, that's going to make things even better for them throughout the rest of the draft, and something to keep an eye on as well that I'm going to talk about later on in this program. But other winners that I want to talk about, the Arizona Cardinals, love what they did. Harrison, you get Robinson, great stuff. I thought the Steelers being able to draft Fontana without having to move up for him, that was really savvy, made a lot of sense. Detroit and Kansas City, though, how can we not talk about these guys? It really seems that the biggest loser outside of course, the Cowboys was the Atlanta Falcons taking Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick. But ultimately, again, with Penix going 8, you saw the Denver Broncos panic, take Bo Nix at 12, who they really felt that they were going to be able to get in the second round. They've realized, nope, that's not going to happen. Let's take him there. So the Falcons really sort of changed its entire draft on its head, and it allowed the Chiefs to be able to trade up for Xavier Worthy. It allowed the Detroit Lions to trade up for Terry and Arnold. A lot of these contending teams have won the draft simply by letting the draft come to them. And that's why they are big winners. The 2 big losers, though, it's got to be Atlanta and the Cowboys. It's got to be, because if you're looking at value and you're looking at the best available player to help you win right away, the Falcons roster is good enough to compete right now. The Cowboys roster is good to compete right now. Is Guyton a pick that's going to turn the needle? No. Is Michael Penix one that's going to turn the needle? Absolutely not. So that was major mistakes made by the Atlanta Falcons and Dallas Cowboys. We do have a couple callers coming on. I'll start with Steve because he started here first. Steve, how's everything going?
Mickey boy, I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good. Well, welcome to the program. I think it's the first time you're calling in.
Oh, yes, it is. Thank you for having me. I've seen you on Mr. Asman's show a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Admiring from afar for a while. So
I'm going to be on there again tonight.
Oh, good. I will cancel my plans and make sure I'm ready to roll. So. Sounds good. Hey, real quick, I'm sure you saw this. Rosenblatt had some comment today about there might be a trade. You kind of hinted at this. Might be a trade in the works that doesn't involve picks. And then our boy JFM last night, stop me if you saw this, he had a couple odd things about bouncing back. So you see where I'm going.
I haven't seen anything from JFM yet. I didn't see it. I'll definitely look at it because I'm sure I'm going to have to write an article about it before day 2 starts. So I haven't seen anything on JFM, but I am hearing, and it's coming from a lot of people right now. And I will center this going into the next part of the topic because I did want to save this for later. But essentially, what I'm hearing is the Jets want to be aggressive. They either are trading up into the second round for a receiver, or the 49ers are just going to say, screw it, Debo for a 4th and a 5th and move on. That's where some of these picks are going to be made available. Debo is not going to have the same kind of capital requirements that Brandon Ayuk is going to have. If that's going to be the case, and the 49ers are desperate to get rid of one of these receivers, which it sounds like they are, certainly something to keep an eye on.
I guess last thing before I bid you farewell, Debo is not chopped liver. The fact that they're willing to just give this guy away for, A, should we be concerned about that? And B, let's say we get him for a 7. First thing that popped into my mind. Can we afford this guy? And if not, who's going away? Like maybe a JFM.
Yeah, again, great question, Steve. I'm going to let you go here so that way I can just answer the question and jump on to other people. But thank you for the call. And listen, this is a great question because a lot of people today have been asking, how can we afford Debo? How can you afford this guy and that guy? But we have to remember when it comes to these kind of conversations, the salary cap can be manipulated at any point. You can restructure deals at any point. So if the Jets go to JFM and say, we're restructuring the deal, go to another player, we're restructuring the deal. I haven't gone to the specifics on all of that and trying to figure that out. But there are ways to fit these guys in the salary cap. Remember what the Saints are doing. The Saints are every year $50, $60 million over the salary cap, and they become cap compliant by the end of the year. So I wouldn't worry too much about fitting a player in right away. So make sure you guys understand. Get excited because the Jets are not – it doesn't sound like the Jets are going to just be standing packed with the 72nd, 73rd overall pick, whatever one it is, in the 3rd round. They seem to be very, very busy here trying to accumulate some more talent, whether it be a rookie or a veteran wide receiver. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff going on. They are very, very busy right now. They're working the phones. It's going to be interesting to see. We do have a caller in. It's going to be Bobby. So, Bobby, how's everything going, man?
Hey, how you doing today?
Good.
I think the Jets were winners, and then I think the Giants were winners yesterday. And I think
the Giants came away with a good pick. And I said if they took a quarterback, it would be a massive mistake.
Oh my God! Remember when we got Daniel Jones for the first pick?
Yeah.
My friend Bad Dog, you had to see his reaction on this channel. He went wild, and Chris the Entertainer, they went berserk. But I think you want to see what Jake's father gave me.
Is that the umbrella?
Yeah, the Gustbuster. Yeah. He gave it that for me for free.
Amazing.
Isn't that nice? And then I think the 49ers are going to be losers tonight if they do that.
Well,
because Samuel is a good. I would like the Jets to get him. He's not a bum like he said. He's not chopped liver,
No, 100%. 100%. You got any other questions for me, Bobby?
No. You're going on later tonight before the draft.
Most likely, I believe I'm scheduled to jump on Jake's show around 7:30.
Oh yeah, like yesterday. You did that yesterday, right?
Oh yeah, I'm always somewhere.
Isn't Jake a great guy? You like Jake?
No, he's absolutely fantastic.
He's A+ in my book. You're a good guy too. You're from Philadelphia, I heard, right?
I'm not from Philly. I'm from Rhode Island, but I am an Eagles
fan.
Oh,
Rhode Island. Oh, did I tell you a story before I leave?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, when I worked with my down at the college, and then it was Marriott, we got to go to a Jet and Patriot game, right? And we stayed at the Providence Marriott, right? And me and my brother were on the elevator with Mark Esno, Joe Klecko, and Marty Lyons.
That's awesome.
So then my brother asked Mark Gaston. He's going through a divorce with that his wife. Remember, he was married. Remember, he was married.
Sorry, who?
Mark Gastineau.
Oh,
Remember,
yeah,
Mark
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
he was
I've heard
married
of
to
of
that
that.
lady. So my brother goes, "Oh, how's your wife doing?" Oh my God! Joe Klecko and Marty Lyons started laughing. His face was so. I thought he was going to kill my brother. Yeah. So yeah, no, that Providence. That's what I'm saying. You ever go to that hotel?
I probably driven by it so many times.
Yeah, I know. I like Providence. I like. Well, we had to sit in the old stadium with those benches. Oh, those would kill your butt. Remember those benches?
Yep.
Now you get nice seats. I want to go there for one game. Okay, you got other callers, right?
Yep, all good. Appreciate it, Bobby.
Yeah,
Have a
we'll
great
talk
day.
to you soon. I talked to you on Jake's.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you, man. So we do have somewhat breaking news because Jordan Schultz posted it 15 minutes ago. But he posted essentially the 49ers are listening to calls on all-pro wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Sources say the Bills and the Patriots are considered highly unlikely to trade for him. Highly unlikely. Take with that what you will. The Bills need a receiver. The Patriots need a receiver. The 49ers want their kind of deal for their receivers, and it doesn't sound like they're going to get it. So even if we go through day 2 and nothing happens, Deebo, Ayuk, that price is going to essentially go down at some point. And if the 49ers are truly worried about looking to get rid of their receiver talent, they're going to have to make a decision very, very quickly. Very quickly. Want to go through some of the questions here in the chat as I go in before we preview day 2. Want to make sure. From Franco, have you heard any of any rumors that JFM is on the block? I haven't heard this yet. We can definitely ask Joe Douglas later today when he speaks after making that 3rd round selection. I haven't heard anything. And again, like I said, I haven't really paid attention to his Twitter account. So I'm going to have to take a look at that. Probably have to write an article on that as well. So stay tuned on that. I don't really have an answer on that, but we can try to figure that out as well. From New York Jets superfan, now we need a weapon or two. I like a guard. What do you think? What do you think, Nick? Yeah, so I think it's a safe bet that the next pick made by the Jets, if a veteran wide receiver is not added, that most likely it's going to be a wide receiver. And I think some of the names you guys are going to be looking at: Malachi Corley, Keon Coleman. Coleman's a guy that a lot of people pegged as a 1st round pick for most of this draft cycle. And then he started testing very, very poorly at the combine. Didn't really do all that much better at his pro day. But the tape is off the charts, absolutely off the charts. And we have seen before athletic freaks fall because they didn't test very well, but they're still dependable players. I think Coleman, if the Jets are going to trade up for anyone, Keon Coleman is probably the best overall player that they can get at the receiver spot. Bigger body, big guy, nice speedster, would fit Aaron Rodgers like a glove. Very similar to Mike Williams, but even then, we don't know if Williams is going to be ready week 1. So you want to make sure that you have a full string of weapons that you can win right away. So definitely something to look at as we get closer to the start of the 2nd round, which starts in about an hour and a half. So appreciate the question, Jet Superfan. Got a question. Brought this up yesterday on the Jake Asman show. Is this a closet hideout at One Jets Drive? Rosenblatt has the same background. So they're all kind of like desk offices. I don't have one. This is the empty one of the crew. So I've been working here for the last couple of days, and it's been nice. It's been cozy. Nice and quiet. A comment here from Wild Wave. It's confirmed they wanted a wide receiver, just couldn't make it happen. Love that they pivot to the O-line. Listen, and this is kind of what I've been saying. You can't force other teams to trade with you. And if no other team wants to make a deal with you, it's not the end of the world it's just not going to be the end of the world if you pivot and you go to the next best available player. And that's really what good GMs do. Bad GMs try to trade up. They don't like their pick. They don't like the player. And then they panic and just reach for a fit on the overall roster. That's not what Joe Douglas did. Joe Douglas went with the best available player at a high position of value. Do not be, subsided by this. This was a very shrewd operation by Douglas yesterday. It was a very sophisticated and process-filled draft strategy. Remember, you guys have heard this now for multiple shows from me. The process is the process of how you make draft selections, the process of how you make trades. If that is solid, you can't really complain about the immediate results. You can complain about the end results if it doesn't work out, but you can't complain about the immediate results based on the process. The Jets process yesterday was simple. Try to trade up for a receiver. If not, take the best available offensive lineman. And again, I talk about the shrewd move that Douglas made, trading back at 11, picking up a 4th and a 5th round pick. It may not be enough to get Debo. It may not be enough to get, IU. They'll probably have to give up even more in future capital. But that's a stepping stone. That's a building block for a potential trade for other teams, whether it be in the second round, whether it be for a veteran wide receiver. I'd be very, very curious to know what the Jets' plan is going to be. But it certainly sounds like the Jets are not going to be standing pat in the second round, whether it's by trading for a rookie, trading for a veteran. They are looking for receiver help right away. They couldn't do it yesterday, so they took the best available offensive lineman and solved a major hole. Now it's the next part, and it's solving the receiving core. I think after that, you talk about what you're looking for outside of that. I think they could use a younger interior defensive lineman. I think a safety certainly is in consideration as well. But those are picks later on in the draft, probably 4th or 5th, maybe even 6th, to be in consideration for. So, Wild Wave, thank you for the comment. And yes, it's not technically wrong. They pivoted, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. Another question here from Wild Wave. Nick, if the Jets traded up to 6, which receiver would they have taken? It's a great question. And I think at 6, if Neighbors was available, they would have taken Malik Neighbors because I think they had Neighbors very high on their draft board. Odunze, though, was I'd like to think, the more realistic target because they wanted a receiver. And if you weren't going to be able to get Neighbors and these guys weren't going to be able to make those picks, then just getting Odunze would be fantastic to them. Weren't able to make that happen. Again, it's not the end of the world because you have so many other picks. You have so many other options in the draft and free agency to really help this offense out. The best way that I can describe it is this. If we're in week 14 and the Jets are fighting for the division and fighting for a top seed, but Tyron Smith is lost for the next 3 weeks and Mike Williams is lost for the next 3 weeks, who would you feel more comfortable replacing those injured players? Carter Warren or Olu Fashanu on the offensive line, Alan Lazard or Malik Neighbors, everything else at receiver? Everyone will take the shiny pick, but a lot of people wouldn't be happy if we were throwing out Carter Warren at left tackle for some of these major games. It doesn't, again, the process doesn't add up into that sort of realm. Want to make sure I get to everybody. Franco with a comment. Debo on this team would be amazing. He certainly would be an offensive weapon that really, he's a positionless player. He's an absolute positionless player. If the 49ers are willing to get rid of him for a price that fits, certainly something the Jets should consider. Red John with a comment. I want one of the Washington receivers. Yeah, Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, 2 guys that are really, really good. They've got some weaknesses to them, but they're going to be in consideration for the second round. The one thing that's interesting, and I think a lot of people didn't really predict this, is the receiving core. There were 7 receivers that went in the first round. People were talking about as many as 11 or 12 going in the first round. That's how dominant this receiving class is, and there's so many good ones still available. That's why it's important. That's why it was important for the Jets to take Olu Fashanu, because if you look now at the offensive linemen available and you look at the receivers available, you've got a lot of impactful players that the Jets can take in this second and third round, this day 2 realm. There's not a lot of guys that would have been available to help the Jets right away. Think about that. It's everyone wants the shiny toy. No one really wants to talk about the difficult things that come after that. That's at least my part. VR, welcome to the program. What are your thoughts on Brendan Rice? Rice is a really good prospect. I think the name is going to help him get into the second round. Certainly someone the Jets can be interested in. I think it's fair to assume he's not going to be his father. But he's a solid prospect, and I certainly think that it's a possibility if they trade up. There's so many guys, there's so many unique receivers available in this draft in day 2 that's going to be available to the Jets. And I think that's important to remember. No matter who you get, you got to have the positive outlook on there. You got to have it. John Gunning with a question, Nick, what do you think it will take to get up to the 40-55 range to get a receiver? Would a third and fourth rounder do it? John, this is a great question, and I have some great news for you. I answered your question in the latest article on Jets Country, a Athlon site. I have it on Twitter as well, Nick_Faria 1720. I dive into the ramifications of what the Jets would have to use and would have to pay in terms of overall value to trade up to one of those picks. But I certainly think the 50 to 60 range is certainly a possibility for the Jets. If they give up a third, maybe a couple fourths, maybe they just say screw it and give up a 2025 second and a fourth round pick this year to move up into the second round. There's a lot of different ways they can go about this. And they can get a little creative in how to expand the opportunities to move up into this draft. So I would say to everyone, stay patient. Just because some of these receivers are going to fly off the board right away doesn't mean the Jets aren't going to be able to get their guy in the long run. That's a warning to everyone. They may not get the rookie they want. They may not get McConkey or some of these other top guys like Coleman, but they could also be in a perfect spot to nab a really, really good player that can help them right away. Want to make sure I get everyone here. The big fellow with the question, Nick, who is the best position receiver left in the draft? Great question. And it's got to be Ladd McConkey, right? I think we all agree on that. McConkey was a possession receiver at Georgia. He has good yak ability, but for a guy, he's the quintessential Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, Danny Amendola. I look at him and I'm like, okay, if the Jets were to take him, Aaron Rodgers has his Julian Edelman for the next few years, however long he wants to play. That's going to help extend his career as well. So I understand it. And there's a lot of great big play receivers. I don't see anyone being as good of a possession receiver as Ladd McConkey. I'm sorry. It's just where I am right now when it comes to that. I'm not even going to say this. Here's the question. If you had to guess who and where will the Jets pick? Good question. If I were to make a guess right now, and it's an educated guess, I think the Jets will trade up with the Philadelphia Eagles to 53. They'll get to 53. They'll take a wide receiver. Probably the guy that I'm looking at there is probably Malachi Corley because I know they like him a lot. But if Coleman falls, he's in consideration. Walker, the kid from North Carolina, certainly another possibility as well. So certainly something that you can keep an eye on there. But I think Philadelphia, they've got 2 second-round picks. They could absolutely stand packed, take a linebacker, take a safety, and then just say screw it to everyone else. But again, it really just depends on the overall value. I think Philly's a safe spot. They could also trade with the Packers. Packers may want to pick up some more draft capital as well in the mid rounds because they're going to want some depth along the offensive line and the defensive line. So certainly something to consider as well. Trying to make sure I get everyone. VR, another question. Are there day 3 running backs that Jets would be interested in? I think there's certainly going to be a day 3 running back they'll take. I just don't know who that's going to be. I haven't really done a lot of research yet. I'm kind of playing catch up with a lot of these things. But I'm sure I would be stunned if they didn't look to address running back again. I'd be stunned. All right. I've waited with him long enough. I want to bring him on. It's my good buddy Dane O. Dane, how's everything going, man?
Hey, great. I'm just there's so much content last night. I'm in overload mode, just gathering.
That seems like exactly my theme right now.
It really is. I mean, it's going to be all weekend, which is even better. But I find it interesting though that like San Fran would drop. I wouldn't say drop, but like shed a wide receiver. Because if you think about it, the three teams in the NFC playoffs last year all went corner in this draft. Like Philly, Detroit, San Francisco, they all went corner. So
San Fran did not go corner.
Was it okay?
San
Was
Fran,
there another one?
Here's the thing, Dane. This is why they're looking to shed. They drafted a wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall from Florida. They took Pearsall with their first-round pick. So now that they've had a receiver now on a rookie deal, that's going to help them sort of keep this contention elongated. But the problem is you got to get rid of one of these receivers because you're going to have to pay one of them. That
is so true. Well, and did I see that the Eagles signed their other receiver yesterday as well?
Yes, they did. Because, again, Howie Roseman, he's got a back problem now because every single time he has to go up to the podium to bow as the best GM in football. He's done it too many times. The fact of the matter is Philadelphia had, after the Devontae Smith contract extension, it was for, 3 years, 75, 90 million, whatever.
51 guaranteed, I think, or something.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is they still had $30 million in cap space. They still had $30 million in cap space. So they were able to get the long-term deal done with A.J. Brown, which actually lowers his cap hit next year and the year after that. And they keep him with the team until 2029 and give him the guaranteed money he wants. And they still have enough cap space to take Justin Simmons in free agency if Howie Roseman says, you know what, go screw.
You know what? And it was that signing yesterday that you guys made that made me realize, okay, Faria is probably right. Maybe we can keep all these core guys. Maybe we can afford Ayuk. Maybe we can get Debo. Like, I am no longer going to hyper scrutinize our finances because
there's no need to.
If Roseman, because I would pick apart Roseman's like long term, and obviously there's something I don't know. So I give up.
The cap is the best way I can describe it. The cap is easily manipulated, and when you have an owner like Philadelphia does, who says, "I will dish out money out of my pocket to give to you in guarantees that will not affect the salary cap," that changes the negotiation. It changes it because Roseman can lower the cap hit. Do you know how much Jalen Hurts is counting towards the salary cap this year?
I don't.
I believe it's like $19 million.
Yeah, that's a fraction.
Million. That's about
Kirk Cousins is like 40 or
think about that. Kirk is 40. Daniel Jones, I think, is like 35. All these quarterbacks are making massive amounts of money in cap hits, but Jalen Hurts isn't, because I think the biggest it goes up for the next 4 years is $30 million, and that's in 2 years when the salary cap is going to balloon even further, when all these other contracts are going to be coming in. So Jalen Hurts technically is underpaid based on what he counts for the salary cap, but it allows them to keep everyone together. This idea that the Jets won't be able to keep their core talent, the guys that they drafted from 2022, I think it's a fallacy because they're gonna agree to a long-term extension with Sauce. They're gonna get Garrett Wilson. They're gonna get Jermaine Johnson. The only one that's going to be the question to me is Breece Hall, because running backs, second contracts, there's a long history of it not working out. And you're going to have that conversation. But I think it's a foregone conclusion that they will try to work something out. in the long term to give him that kind of deal that he wants. The Saquon contract kind of changes the conversation a little bit with running backs. And I think it's going to help Breece Hall in the long run. But again, everyone's worried about what the Jets salary cap number is. It takes 2 restructures to give enough money to get the kind of deal that Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk would want.
JFM, DJ Reed, Quinnen can be. But you know what is interesting about the Brees thing? Like, they were doing all that. They overworked him so much in that final game last year. And a lot of people were thinking it was with the 1,000 yards. But one thing I noticed with the rookie escalators and whatnot, he had to get, I think it's like 60% of the snaps for 2 of his years. And that final game put him into that. So like
when you see teams do that, it's a good relationship build overall.
100%, because had he fallen at like 59.5%, that would have been bad. But like now he goes out and does 60% again. He gets a pay bump and he's more likely to re-sign here after his 4th year. So I think that is excellent showmanship by Douglas doing that, But he got so much scrutiny for why are we running Brees 40 times?
Who cares?
There's more to it, guys. There's more to it.
But the other thing is, who cares? It's not your money. Like this is what I always say. If they want to help Breece Hall reach a certain contractual negotiation part, who gives a crap? If they want to run him into the ground, who gives a crap? Because again, you guys haven't made the playoffs in 13 years. The goal should be to get to the playoffs. And if that means running Breece Hall into the ground where he doesn't get a second contract, then guess what you do? You let him walk and you draft the next one. Every running class is coming in with a couple of different guys. And this is not me bashing Breece Hall saying he's a bad running back. He is one of the best in pro football right now. But the best comparison I have for him is Le'Veon Bell. And Pittsburgh ran him into the ground. So much so that they let him walk in free agency, and he did nothing the rest of his career. But notice his relationship with the Steelers now. It is not fractured. The Steelers essentially said, we're going to give you the contract we feel you're worth. If you don't like it, we're going to let you walk. Perfectly fine. Go get your money. But just know you've touched the football 3,000 times. Good luck.
And I think that's what we do this year. I really do. Like, that's why I didn't need weapons so bad early. Like, I think we're going to run everything through Brees. How do you keep Rodgers upright? Well, he's not throwing it on 1st and 2nd down. That helps. That helps a lot. Give me these road graders we've gotten in the offseason. I really do. Like, Brees, his offensive player of the year odds 30-1. Oh, I slammed that last night. I slammed it.
I like that a lot. I like those odds a lot, man.
A lot. Even if he doesn't win, I'm sure I could cash that out later in the year for something,
I do want to bring this up. Because you're here, and Red John brought up this question. What are the Eagles' needs?
Now?
Well, I guess because I wanted to bring it up with someone here just so I can contain myself because, quite frankly, they need a linebacker. They probably need another offensive lineman. They need a safety. Oh, and by the way, Roseman's on the phones as well. He's looking to trade up into the 2nd round. If they were to come out of the draft with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and they're just going to throw DeJean at safety,
that would be nasty.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, try see, and Philly's built to get a lead early, and then you go ahead and tempt them the back half of that defense.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. Dan, I appreciate you jumping on, man. I do want to, because I only got 9 minutes left, I want to make sure we talk about day 2. So appreciate it, brother.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure.
All right. So we've talked about the rumors. We talked about Deebo. We talked about Ayuk. Certainly some things to watch going into the next slate of days for the NFL draft in the next couple of rounds. But let's talk about day 2. Let's talk about options for the Jets not trading a veteran receiver, trying to get into the second round, but also with this third round pick. Because this third round pick, like I've spoken about for months, guys, I've said this for months. What the Jets can do with this third round pick is they can still get a starting caliber player at receiver, at defensive line. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can get a starting caliber player in the third round right now. Daniel Jeremiah said it at the scouting combine. They said it at the scouting combine. This is as talented a draft class as he has seen. And I agree. So I do think the Jets are going to trade up. And I do think it's going to be worth trading up so you can get a receiver like Keon Coleman or McConkey or Walker, whoever it is. I'm just throwing names out here, just options. If they trade up for a receiver, now all of a sudden you can go best defensive player. You can go best available player. And the name that I continue to look at is Chris Jenkins Jr. Chris Jenkins in the middle with Quinnen Williams, I think we would take that all day. High character guys to continue to make sure this locker room is together. Makes a lot of sense. It would make a lot of sense all the way throughout. If you guys have any other lasting questions, let me know. I want to bring up one little thing here. New York Jets superfan. Eagles suck. Let's be honest. Their quarterback is trash. They have no defense. I see them winning 7 games max. Last year's slide was no fluke. Well, New York Jets superfan, I appreciate that. I don't have a shadow realm to put you in. However, I will just state the fact that of the 2 teams that I've talked about today, one of them has actually been to the playoffs consistently and the other has not. So I don't know which one should be bragging about who's good or who's not. Dane with an additional question. How accurate was your mock? I know you hit Quignon and we were toying with Bowers. Yeah, my mock was blown to shit. Let's be quite honest. I had Neighbors going to the Giants. I had Harrison going at 4. The top 4 was right. Neighbors was right. Trying to think who else. I didn't have Alt. I didn't have the Falcons. I had the Eagles there. I had the Cowboys with Guyton. I had that. I had the Steelers with Fautano. So, compared to everyone else, I think I did okay. Not the end of the world. Johnny with a question. Who would you say has done well in the draft so far? I say Bills. LOL, just kidding. Yeah, the Bills have come away, I think, massive losers of day one. I think, quite frankly, the Cowboys just are in shambles. The Falcons, guys, I don't know if you've seen it, but the video of Arthur Blank yesterday talking with the GM and the GM having to explain why he took Michael Penix was stunning. Absolutely stunning. You never see an owner do that and get caught on tape like that. That was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Boomtown, I feel like we dip into next year's draft capital, move up tonight. I would tend to agree. If a trade up for a rookie is going to be made, I think that's certainly up for consideration. Red John with the question, do you think Franklin and Rice make it to the third? I think Rice could. Troy Franklin, I keep hearing Buffalo. I think it was Albright first that reported Buffalo was enamored with him in the first place. So I think the Bills could take Franklin. Rice could certainly fall to the third round. And if Rice is a third round selection for the Jets, that's a damn good value pick because Rice is really good. He's not his father, but he's still a dependable receiver. I think he's going to be really good over the next few years as he develops with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. Trying to go through the final trades. So VR, any surprise draft slide yesterday? Ones to look for today, 2 to 3. This is a great question. I think the slide, it has to be the corners. The slide of Quinyon Mitchell, the slide of Terry and Arnold was stunning to me because these were guys that were top 10 players and a lot of people's draft boards. They were ultra talented guys. So, yeah, I would think the cornerback room slide was a little surprising. I think Xavier Worthy falling to the Chiefs' lap thanks to the Bills was stunning. It's just absolutely ridiculous that trade was even made in the first place. Trying to think who else. Brock Bowers falling to the Raiders, I think surprised me a little bit. The Broncos don't have a lot of weapons now outside of Sutton. And you would think that they would try to target that, maybe even an offensive lineman. But they panicked when Penix was drafted, and that's why they took Bo Nix. So that's the reasoning on that. Johnny, you can't take my jokes. Can you ask JD if his back hurts? He's swinging that big old thing. Yeah, you can't take my jokes. Douglas has had a very strong offseason. However, he didn't sign Saquon Barkley to a 3-year deal. He didn't see a corner, the best available player at the position of need, fall into his lap like that. I mean, come on. Come on. Let's get serious here. All right, one final comment before I have to go, because I do have to get some writing done. And I'm going to end it here with the final man. Nick, you will see this year how good the Jets are and how bad the Eagles are. They got destroyed by the Bucs. They paid $50 million for a top 10 quarterback that tries scrambling to his right every play. Well, that's quite interesting, New York Jets superfan, because actually Jalen Hurts is not making $50 million this year. He's actually counting about $25 million against the salary cap. So get your facts right. Get your facts right. Don't come after my quarterback like that. Not going to be acceptable. Not acceptable. But anyway, appreciate all of you guys for jumping on for this quick show. We'll try to jump on back on Monday. We may do something tomorrow, potentially Sunday, but we'll see what goes on. Like, share, and subscribe to the video and the YouTube channel. All of the viewership is appreciated. Hope you guys have a great day 2 of the NFL draft. A lot to get excited about. And I will see you guys all on Monday, the latest.